Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast for the recently deceased. This is episode 6, the Scream 5 episode. I'm Nate Roberts,
I'm Rodney Godek.
and we watched Scream over the weekend. I hope you did too. It was a good movie, definitely a good installment to the franchise. Um, yeah, I don't know where we want to start. So, Rod,
Yeah,
why
I
don't
don't
you?
either. I didn't. Sure. So, I mean, we haven't, to increase the excitement that we have doing this stream with everyone and with each other, we have not talked to each other about it. I only saw it yesterday. You saw it 2 days ago, I think, on Sunday, but
Yep.
opening weekend. I went when it was just a matinee to avoid crowd because I hate crowd.
Yep.
Um, at least with where I'm at in Central New York, it is not the best thing. And even the difficulty is sometimes in a small theater, there might be one or two annoying people that are heightened because you can't hear anything else. So I went matinee, so I didn't get any crowd experience, but I got to see the film like that. Did you have other
Yeah,
people in the
yeah.
theater?
I'm like three people. I went to a Sunday noon matinee
Okay.
so I could take notes and like not have people looking at me weird.
Yeah, yeah. I had my little notepad, and I was just like, do do do. There's
Yeah,
people behind me, but there were a couple back, and there's
yeah.
recliners. They couldn't see me. It's fine, and I didn't really care. I once took my C++ book to a football game in high school, so
So
totally
there
okay
you
with
go.
it. So yeah, I don't know where to start. Overall impression, positive or
Overall,
negative?
overall positive. I mean, I don't put it on the level as a requel, and we'll get into that world towards
Sure.
later in the episode.
Are they
Uh,
the first to coin that term?
I think they are, and I think that's probably one of my favorite parts about this movie, and even when you go back to like Scream One, they definitely have their own vernacular. They create like phrases that become part of pop culture. No one in the United States can say "I'll be right back" without remembering that scene from Scream. It's iconic.
Sure.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
so I feel like requel is the term, thanks to Scream 5. And there are a lot of them. Even last year, two were on my top five: Candyman and Halloween Kills, which was actually the second of the requel. Halloween 2018 was actually the requel, right?
Right. Right.
The let's reboot the franchise, but we can't, so let's kind of come up with a crazy, unique way to make a sequel, destroy some canon in the process, and write our new
Right.
canon, right?
So then let's talk real quick about like how they're defining it in the film because this doesn't happen until okay. So before we get into more detail, this is going to be a spoiler laden episode. We're
Right,
not going to restrict our conversation within the bounds of spoilers, and so
right.
please know that watching in, we would
Yes.
expect or hope that everyone has seen it. But just a fair warning, we will be discussing the movie in detail. And so I wanted to talk about when they talk about requel,
All right.
which is much later in the movie.
So before that, let's just for anyone who um, isn't familiar with the meta horror, uh, start by talking about 1 through 4. Just very briefly.
Okay,
Just very briefly.
sure.
The first Scream was the first, maybe the first ever, but definitely the first popular Hollywood big budget A-list horror movie that was meta. It was almost like the film was self-aware, making jokes, kind of winking at the audience. And it was not a horror comedy. It played like a horror movie that was funny, but it wasn't a full-on horror comedy, which is would kind of make it goofy and whatever. It turned out to be this amazing iconic horror film, as we said earlier.
Yeah,
Scream
and I
Two.
think it's like one of the very first movies, and maybe there were others, but like whenever you're saying self-aware meta, it all of the universe of horror that exists in the world as we know it exists in the movie Scream as they know it, and they talk about it nonstop. There's references to real world horror actors, actresses in films to kind of talk about what you should or shouldn't do to survive a horror movie because there's this murderer loose and they're a part of it, and so it's like they're aware that they're in a horror movie without being in a horror movie. And so like that's the what they're
Right.
doing whenever they talk about it, and it hadn't been done before in this kind of a way, and so it was genre defining, groundbreaking type
Ex-
territory, and standout top. Some people consider it a modern day classic. Like it is one of the top five slashers. You know, some people say like, oh, Michael Myers, such and such, Ghostface, and Scream
Ghostface.
should
Yeah.
be in that list. People include it. So yeah, so that's how
Sure.
Scream One starts. High school kids, thing happens, Ghostface. Um, and the killers were friends, two friends that were just fellow students of Sydney, and they had trauma because Billy's mother left, or father left because of the actions of Sydney's mother, and
Right.
so that was their impetus for donning Ghostface and murdering her, trying to murder her and all of her friends.
All their friends. Yeah, right. And then you go to Scream 2, and now it's not how to survive a horror movie, it's how to survive a horror sequel. And they
Mm-hmm.
discuss all the sequel tropes, as if, these sequel tropes are going to be real life. Um, Scream 3, how to survive a trilogy. And the final in the trilogy, all bets are off. Even the main character can die, so watch out, Sydney. Um, you know, I thought 2 was a little better than 3. I think 3 was the weakest in the original trilogy, but you have to appreciate the commentary and like what they're trying to do with the concept of a meta horror film.
Well, yeah, and they try to do so many other things that they're making fun of or poking fun of or making fun of itself. They just do it in so many different ways between two and between three. And it's funny because it gets even thinner of a line or a thread they're trying to draw between it, because by three the exposition of a trilogy, the roles can't exist from our traditional expositionist being Randy Meeks. His character dies and is killed in the second film. So
Right.
how do they solve this? He's the guy that explains everything. They magically have a VHS that he recorded before his passing to be delivered to the main characters if this happens again post mortem, as
Right.
sort of like to explain things and to to clue us all in as to the rules of a trilogy.
Right.
And it's hilarious and it makes sense, but it's funny, but it works, and it's kind of, you accept it. It's
Yeah.
this whole Scream universe does ridiculous things that you just accept and you're okay with. It doesn't bother you as much as it would in other films because of the meta, self-referential quality of the film.
Right. Right.
So four breaks this mold. They can't do the same thing.
Right. And that's why I think 4. I don't want to say 4 is better than 1, but
Because it isn't.
I put I don't want to say I like 4 more than I like 1. How about that?
Okay, there you go.
But I really enjoyed 4, because 10 years later, 10 years after Scream 3, it's how to survive a reboot. And not only does the film poke fun at itself, as it always has, it pokes fun at the whole Hollywood system and indicts Hollywood for not having original ideas. And
Right.
this is probably my favorite, part of Scream 4. Aside from that, the story kind of went in new directions. I liked Emma Roberts' character. I liked the Culkin brothers' character. I
Yep,
was
Rory.
I kind of pegged Rory as one of the killers. I didn't see the Emma Roberts reveal coming. Um, I really really enjoyed 4, and I rewatched all 4 of them last week. Um,
Yeah, me too.
and honestly, while I'm watching 4, I'm like, did I even watch this when it first came out? I feel like I had never seen
Sure.
it before.
I
uh,
I hadn't seen that one before because especially after three, I lost interest. And the thing I think about the franchise, that maybe it's doing it intentionally, maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. It has this quality where it's the same thing over and over again.
right.
The meta quality of the film. It's making fun of itself. It does it all the time. Like there has to be something else that's keeping me engaged as a viewer or as a horror fan, where it can't just keep hitting the same note. And I feel like between two, three, and four, they each have certain qualities that do elevate what they're trying to do, but then other times where it brings it down into, you just accept it because it's what it is.
Right.
Uh, but it doesn't elevate anything or doesn't say any, doesn't dredge new ground or things like that. So that's where I feel like it's exciting time with 5 coming out that it's maybe going to try to correct or re-steer the course to a brighter future, which I think they're going to try to be doing.
Right. Okay. So, viewer, finally, let's talk about Screen 5.
And we are omitting the miniseries, the TV series, correct?
Oh, sure, sure.
Right.
Which,
It exists, but it's not in the
it's
universe.
not in
It's
the
just
film universe, right?
right.
First
So
first season was really good. If you never saw it, just saying.
all right. So yeah, Scream 5, which some people are saying why not call it Scream 5, and they talk about this in the film. But for me, the M is very pointed, like a V. So the
Oh,
new Roman numeral 5 to me is in the
it's
title.
kind of in the title. Yeah.
That's my thought. I don't know if they intend that, but that's how I see it. And so whenever people say why not call it Scream 5, I think yeah, it is called Scream 5. It's right there.
Right. I did not catch that, but what I like about what I like about Scream
Scream.
2020, Scream 2022, right off the bat, is we start with a phone call. Um, it is the main character, Sam's sister, Tara, that answers the phone.
Yes.
She goes through the usual. There's a sick fake out where he sends a video, or like supposedly a live video, but it was probably a recorded video of
Of her
him
friend, yeah.
of him outside her friend's house. And he's asking her the questions because if she gets them wrong, he's gonna kill the friend. And it turns out
Mm-hmm.
he's at her house all along, and he attacks her. Now, she survives the attack. So right off the bat, we're in new Scream territory.
Right.
Right? So it's
Did you get
not.
all the questions on the quiz right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was right. I was like Gail Weathers, Heather Graham.
Yeah, Heather Graham, absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
and then Billy and Stu. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
And she only names Billy.
She only names Billy, so she was wrong.
But to her credit, and I think this is for me, I laughed out loud. She was saying how she likes intelligent horror, and
Yes.
she lists the Babadook as her favorite. I personally hate the Babadook, and but she listed a bunch of those kind of films. I
Oh
think
yeah.
by the end of it, I don't know if they did it early on, but
The other character, the female of the twins, who is the Randy of this of Scream 5,
yeah, that's
also
Mindy, I think.
Mindy. She also has a bit about elevated horror and name drops Jordan Peele, which
Yeah,
was
to
nice.
me, her naming Babadook, I wrote her off. I was like, she doesn't know shit.
Yeah, I did not like the Babadook.
Yeah. If you're
um,
talking intelligent horror, there's a lot better options, but whatever.
yeah, elevated horror was the word they used.
Elevated horror,
Elevated horror.
not yeah,
Yeah.
intelligent horror, same thing.
Okay. So Sam and Tara have bad blood. Sam gets a phone call and she's on her way. She's coming. She lives in California. She's coming even though her and her sister have
Yeah,
some kind of history.
right.
And
Her and her boyfriend Richie are employed at a bowling alley. It's the middle of the day, and there are two bowling alley employees that are both out at break. I don't know what kind of busy bowling alley this fucking is, but I've only seen like one guy at that damn place spraying the shoes, so it's ridiculous. I noticed that. I kind of picked up. I was like, two people at a bowling alley in the middle of the day. This is weird. Plus, two young, attractive people working at a bowling alley. Also preposterous, but I think intentionally so. To me, that was enjoyable.
sure, sure. And Richie, played by Jack Quaid,
Right.
the
The boys.
the boys, yeah. I don't know if you want to call him the main character. He's at least the protagonist of season one. Um, did play the oh
Huey.
yeah, Huey, exactly. It was a
Yeah.
smaller role in season two, but he was still definitely
Yeah.
part of the
Right. Less of the
boys.
forefront.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
So yes,
so
they leave together to go back down to see Tara.
right, they hit the road, um, and she finds out he's never seen a stab movie. Uh, Um,
Hmm.
so they get there, and this is where Sam gets the phone call in the break room at the hospital, and
Yeah, this was another surprising twist for me.
right, and
Well,
she
it
gets
was quick.
attacked. She gets attacked right away. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and Ghostface runs off. And now, the police report is two attacks. No,
Hmm.
no body count yet. Um,
Yeah.
but they cite the Ghostface mask, so everybody's on high alert.
Right. And so but before they're at the hospital, because the kids kind of have their moment a la the original Scream, where they're all kind of gathered in a quad type area outside the high school talking about what happened to their friend who is now at hospital. Um, and I think that the kid that plays Wes Hicks, daughter of now Sheriff Hicks, he like his hair was super 90s, and I
Oh
don't think
yeah,
kids wear their hair like that. The bleach blonde
yeah,
tips
yeah.
was goofy.
Yeah.
I think it was intentional.
Right. Well, I think that character once again was kind of like putting Wes Craven in the movie. So
Right.
maybe that's why they did his hair that way. Um, so what happens next?
Well, so they talk, and they you see the one guy that looks almost like the Billy Loomis character from the first one, where the loner guy that's outside of his with his Mustang
Sure,
outside the
sure.
school, and he's like kind of giving him shit, looking at his girlfriend or at Chad's girlfriend, Liv, or something like that. I think that's who he's looking at.
Right. They
Um,
have some kind of
and item
history
up.
we don't know about.
Yeah. And so that happened. Then the hospital stuff happens, and now I think it's them at the bar later,
Right.
where the second or third attack, but first
First
confirmed
kill.
kill occurs
Yeah.
afterwards with the guy that was
Right.
confrontational or in their face at the high school.
Right. And
And that is where you hear Nick Cave and Red Right Hand.
right.
And I'm so glad because it wasn't included in number 4, right? The soundtrack.
uh
I think that people have said that they hated that. I couldn't confirm because I forgot. I thought they all had it.
I
It
don't
was
think
like a
that
token
I don't think
Scream
that
movie,
song was in the fourth movie.
right? But it was in all the other ones. And so here it is, and it's on his radio. He goes to turn off the car. It cuts out, but then it begins right back up when Ghostface attacks them. That was a
Right.
really good scene. I did enjoy that scene.
Yep. Yep. First kill, good kill.
Hmm.
Um, so then it would be uh, Sam and Richie tracking down Dewey. Or actually
Yep.
We get Dewey first, where he's living in a trailer, having beer for
Yeah.
breakfast, watching the Good Morning
Gale
America
Weathers. Yeah.
show featuring Gale Weathers, and he's got this idiot smile. He's the happiest guy in the world getting to watch his we assume right away ex-wife on
Right.
television. And he's obviously, no longer the sheriff either. We find out that he was forced into retirement later. But
Right. They want
Sam,
to go there because they need help to figure things out from the original people, the legacy characters of the Scream franchise.
right? Also, Ghostface tells Sam that she's the the star, the target, the Sydney of this
Hmm.
movie, because it the killers after two, three, so three and four, um, the victims see the killers as making their own movie in real life through the killings, and that becomes kind of a model for what they do and how they do it. And so they start referring to other characters, not characters, but people in the movie as the star or the know-it-all. You know what happens to the know-it-all, right? Um,
Hmm.
so I lost my train of thought, but that's okay because
Well, so
they,
whenever they went out to talk to Dewey, you hear Dewey's theme
right,
song, the kind of guitar riff,
yeah,
which was memorable from all the other films he was in, and they do not convince him. He more or less says like,
yeah,
no, see
no,
ya.
yeah. But he does text Gail, um,
Yeah.
which is hilarious,
Yeah.
that they've started again.
Right.
and, to which she immediately comes down.
Right. She just leaves.
Right.
Um,
He also
you
call he
don't see
call
her until the next kill scene, but
he calls Sydney too, and she says
right.
no fucking way am I coming back there ever again.
Yeah. She's with the kids running. Talks about Mark. Some people have I've seen questioned Mark. Is it Mark Kincaid who was the detective in
3.
3? Don't know.
Don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Uh, don't find out. Well, except unless it's in future requel
Requel Scream
films,
6.
which it could be.
Yeah.
So they get back, and this is where we have the next big exposition dump about what's happening in the film. Dewey eventually joins them on the couch at the house, correct, to then talk
Yeah.
about what roles everyone's going to play and how they have to prepare. Mindy's leading, and this is because this is Mindy and Chad are nephews, nephew and niece to the original exposition character Randy makes,
Randy,
Jamie
right.
Kennedy's character.
Right. This is
It's their mother is the aunt that came with the VHS in Scream 3.
right. And it's the same actress.
Right, same weird looking girl. And you see Randy's photo, and that's kind of cool because he's not in it, but his spirit is in it. Uh, and his photo is in the backdrop of his niece, Mindy, for the most part, doing all the describing of how it's happening. And she starts talking about all these other films and how they do things and how it's related to Stab. And you start to understand everyone's a suspect. Which we should mention, Dewey was the kind of first one to finger
Right.
Richie
Richie.
at the love interest.
Right.
Look at the love interest. What's this guy doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
First off, get away from him.
How long have you known him? 6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you know about him? Has he ever seen the Stab movies? Does he love them? Is he obsessed with them?
Right.
And then he
He's
says,
watching it. He's watching it on Netflix in the hospital. I think the first time they go there.
yeah.
She's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Stab's on Netflix."
uh, he he says that it's in these kind of situations, it's the love, it's always the love interest. And
Right.
then he says, what about your sister? Does she have a close knit group of friends? The killer is among them.
Yeah. Right.
So he tells us who two of the killers are. He
Yeah. Right away,
he says it's the love
without
interest
knowing it.
and one of her friends.
Right.
And he doesn't know that they're from California. That they just drove to wherever this place is.
Right.
Um, because I don't know, do we ever know where, like, what state this town is in?
No, yeah. I think it's all California. They
Oh, is it
mention
California?
Modesto,
Modesto's where they're from. Is where they are.
Richie and Sam,
Richie and Sam
right?
are in Modesto.
And
Yeah,
Woodsboro. It's a fictitious
a
town.
fictitious town.
Woodsboro is
Uh,
it's a make believe town.
and
It
we're
doesn't
assuming, so
really
we're
exist.
assuming California then.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
not that great of a road trip for Richie and Sam.
right. So yeah, the couch scene happens. The only thing like memorable aside from Mindy kind of channeling the spirit of Randy in
Yes.
that whole scene, there was a funny one liner from Dewey where Wes's character started saying how he's a suspect. Like your motive is you've been like beat to shit every time this killer comes around, and your wife divorced you, so you've got a lot of reason to be the murderer. And he's like, "Well, you must be the murderer because that cut deep."
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
it was a dumb line, but it still made me chuckle, and I kind of
Oh,
liked it.
I laughed out loud at that line. I thought
Yeah,
it was so unexpected. I did not
right.
expect a joke there, so it came way out of left field and was really great, really great.
Now, do you know, does David Arquette, is his face just genuinely always that squinty? Is it just the character? Because I'm looking at the poster even, his face is normal looking. I don't think his eyes are always like super squinty like that, but in this role, they're always super squinty, and it's kind of funny that he like maybe did it for the first movie, and now
Now he's got to do it
five
every
movies
time.
later, he always has to fucking squint his eyes. He must hate it.
Yeah.
He goes home after a day of home and he's just got headaches. Like, oh my god,
You got to
I'm
kill
such
me
an
off
idiot.
you got to kill me off in this movie.
Yeah,
I can't
I
do it
can't keep
again.
doing
I
it.
can't do it again.
My optometrist is down my neck.
Yeah. All right. So the next kill. The
Two kills,
unfortunate
right?
double. Yeah, it was a double. The sheriff,
Yeah,
the new sheriff, and her son Wes. And the
right.
sheriff is the deputy from 4.
Right.
and played by the same actress. So it was really great to see as much of the old cast come back as did come back.
For sure. The legacy characters that they included, they were all there. It helped. The whole purpose of having this idea of a prequel is that you need them there to kind of solidify or to anchor the new direction that this boat is going to be going.
Right. So and once this was very creative. This killer is probably one of the smartest ones so far because so far it's been a ton of fake outs. Just like the first call with Tara and the video of him being outside Amber's house, he calls the sheriff and says, "I'm going to kill your son," and sets a trap for her to run into, and she runs back to the house and literally runs right into his knife, and then he
Right.
goes inside and kills the son.
So, also sort of a twist on the shower scene. The shower scene is now a male shower scene,
Male shower scene.
which is not common.
And then he goes through the house because you even expect um, Ghostface to be in the house
It'll
about to
happen
kill the
up
son.
there, right? Yeah.
Right. And they do like four classic fake outs in a row to the point where
Yeah.
it was like
Door opens.
obvious. Yeah, door
He's grabbing
opens,
things.
door closes,
And the
then
music
music
heightens.
comes.
The
Yeah.
violins are going.
Yeah.
The crescendo. Ugh, nothing.
Nothing. And then he does it again at the fridge door. Two
Yeah.
doors in a row. Um, and of course the shower scene as well. So he goes through the whole house, and then you're like, what is going on? It goes right outside to the mom running in, and Ghostface right there at the top of the porch. She runs right into the knife. So it's just like so well done. So smart. Like a departure from formula a little bit. Like these fake
Mhm.
outs were just really nice to see.
Yeah, he goes to he sees the doors open and he knows it was closed and locked because he locked it because his mother said lock the door. That's just what they do. He's equipped because there's a killer. And he goes and he closes it, and that's when Ghostface gets him. And this, I think, is where this movie starts to now set itself apart from the rest, or to welcome this is new horror. We have to heighten the experience of these kills, and this one was pretty intense. This was super close up. You're inches away from the face, the camera is, and the knife is just slowly going into the neck. And there's a prosthetic. It's not CGI. It's
Yeah.
all there, and it's perfect. It goes in, and you can see it go through, and it's just blood going out, and it just slows down. It just goes with them. Was super graphic in a way that I don't think the others were. And I think that it was like, I think it was really trying to set a tone like this is the new level that we're going for with
Yeah.
kills.
Yeah. I totally agree. That was a great kill. All right. The next thing that happens, I believe we're back to the hospital. The next beat, anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that makes sense.
well, I mean,
Right, he was watching Sam.
Sydney shows up somewhere, maybe after or at the hospital.
So it's at this point where I stopped taking notes because I was noting a lot of these things whenever I was watching it. It was hard to read in
Yeah.
the theater, to be honest. But there's a scene after this where it might have been Chad. I can't remember. One of them's eating pizza, Pizza Hut. Maybe I can't remember where it is, but you see the box open and it has Pizza Hut's logo. It was kind of like in your face advertisement for Pizza Hut, which I thought was weird. It didn't make any
Sure.
sense because I don't remember any other advertisement of brands throughout the film.
Right.
That kind of made me scratch my head. I was like, does Pizza Hut still logo their shit under the lid? I don't remember. I haven't had a Pizza Hut in a long time.
I
Um,
didn't know they were still open.
you know that there's one in town. It's by Brooks. I think it's at the theater, but either way, they mention Stab 8. I think there's like a clip. I think, yeah, because there's Pizza Hut. I think someone's watching videos. You see them talking about how Stab 8 in their universe is being made and how people are trashing it because why aren't they calling it Stab 8? It's Stab 8. Why
Yeah.
are they just calling it Stab? They're stupid. And
Right.
Ghostface doesn't use this knife anymore. He's got a flamethrower. They're totally ruining the franchise. It doesn't mean anything anymore. and they're just trashing on it, just more
Right.
of the
So
comedic element
yeah,
of what these films do.
right. Stab 8 is a requel in the Scream universe.
Right.
And like your take on the M looking like a 5, a B looks like an 8. So
Yeah, exactly.
yes, I thought this commentary was hilarious. Talking about requels once again, especially with the Halloween 2018 and Candyman coming out this year and
Mhm.
or last year, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre requel coming out this year. Um, it certainly is a thing, and once again, just like in 4, they're they're making fun of themselves, but also they they indict Hollywood again for not having
Right.
original ideas and coming at it from this new angle instead of, although they spent the reboot angle to the point where it can't, they can't reboot anything anymore. So now they've had to come up with this new concept of requels. They even mentioned Star Wars, that 7, 8, and 9 are requels because
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
new characters, it's new fresh stuff, but they're all attached to the legacy characters in some way, and that's also the line that keeps coming up from Sydney and from Gail, mostly Gail, that it doesn't matter that it's happening to you guys. It's tied to the past, and you'll find the answers
Yeah.
in the past. You're not going to find the
Right.
answers, here around. You have to figure out why this is happening to you. You have to go back.
Right. And it's after the Hicks deaths, Wes and the sheriff, that you Gail shows up. Dewey's there, and
Yep.
that's how she ends up getting involved. And it's not until, yeah, because then it goes back to the hospital because that's where, um,
This is where Ghostface comes back,
right,
and um, and the
because everyone has left Tara alone
right, because
because the
the
sheriff is
sheriff
dead.
was killed.
They're all now
So
leaving the hospital,
they rush
and
back.
everyone left the hospital.
Everyone.
Apparently,
Well, no, no, no. She
this is
she was she was on a private she was on a private floor, which
and
I
there
thought,
was a cop who
which
did
I,
get killed,
which was,
but
yeah.
it turned into Halloween 2 from the 80s for a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah, yeah. So
She was Laurie Strode in the
in the
wheelchair.
wheelchair, yeah, yeah, and so he's on the phone with Sam. He's given her the quiz. Richie gets there first. So now the quiz is now the final question is, I'll only kill one of them. Who's it going to be, Richie or Sam? She buys some time. She keeps stringing the killer along by just like making up garbage. And then she says, I was buying time, dumbass. The door is open. We've got some gunfire. Ghostface takes some shots to the chest as he usually does. Um, we get
Yeah, Dewey
Tara.
is there now.
Yeah, Dewey's there. We get Tara. We get her out of there. They're in the elevator going down. Dewey hops out at the last second. He says he grabs the elevator door. You got to shoot him in the head. He'll get up if you don't.
Yeah,
He goes to do the deed, and that's the last time we see Dewey.
yeah.
Unfortunately,
Another graphic
yeah,
kill. Yeah,
yeah. David Arquette's character, uh, sh former Sheriff Dewey, leaves the franchise.
right.
No more squinting for him.
his his crosses no longer need to be burdened. Yeah, double knife, stomach in the back, and just almost bifurcating his midsection all the way up. Didn't stand a chance. Yeah, super gruesome. It's like where in this one you see Ghostface almost enjoying it more than other times, where
Oh,
it's and the Ghostface says it's been an
it's been
honor.
an honor. It was an honor. And
Messed
so,
up.
yeah, well, I mean, so the thing about this movie, and maybe it was in all the screams and you just never noticed, unless you watched it 100 times, they give you all the information you need,
Right.
but before the reveals at the end. It is a mystery whodunit slasher, right? Which is
Yep.
how it's described by, you said Mindy, right?
Right.
Um, So
But
we
I find
know.
myself whenever I watch them, I don't try to put it together. I just try to like, I don't know. Part of me does, and part of me doesn't. Like whenever Ghostface is attacking someone, I'll say, okay, who's being attacked right now? It can't be them. But then you got to think, there's two of them,
There's always
so
two.
it could be just one of the ones that's not here because there's a group of half a dozen at least people. There's always going to be one of them that isn't around, or a couple of them that aren't around, and that's always going to change. Now there's these three are being attacked, and those other two aren't here, and so you can never really be certain. And there's all kinds of assholes that be like, I knew who it was the whole time.
Yeah.
A, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. You had a theory, you had an idea. You didn't
Right.
fucking know until they revealed it. I'm sorry, but you didn't. You had a hunch, and it
Right.
happened to be right. Well, guess what? People guess shit all the time, and it just happens to be correct. Doesn't mean that they knew.
Right. Right.
See, every time a multiple choice works out.
Right. So we know that the killer is a mega fan, right? Because
Yeah,
it was an
because of
honor.
that.
It
Yeah,
was an honor. Um, this is what brings Sidney Prescott to town. The death of Dewey.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
she
Gail is
goes,
grieving in
yeah,
the waiting room, and Sydney comes, and they have their moment.
yeah, and they try to convince Sam after this incident. So this incident was very like in your face, up close and personal. They try to convince Sam to track down the killer and murder him. In Sam's words, "You want me to be a murderer?" Uh,
Yep.
but Sam and Richie have other plans to get the fuck out of Dodge. And
Right.
so they try to. They try, but the killer had other plans. So Richie, Sarah, Sam, and Tara are driving away when Tara can't find her inhaler. But luckily for them, her best friend Amanda has a spare at her house. Where
It's on the
who
way
who
that they're
it's on the
going.
way. Whose house is it? Stu Macher's house.
Yeah. You don't
um,
realize until later on, but yeah, hilarious. And Richie's trying to convince them, like, I'm not fucking stopping somewhere. Are you kidding me? Like,
yeah,
we're not doing that.
yeah,
We gotta go.
yeah. And then
He's trying to convince them.
and Sam's like, "I'll go in and get it," and Tara's like, "No, I'm coming with you." And then he's like, "Well, I'm not gonna stay in the car and get fucking killed." So they
Yeah.
so they all go in together, and she's having a party. It's the Four West party, where there's a
Right.
big
West
banner
Side
that
Side.
says
Yeah.
Four Wests, and they're they're
Chad's doing a shot.
Chad's doing a shot. Yeah, they're drinking in Wes's honor, which once
Yeah.
again I feel like is they're saying thanks Wes, thanks to Wes Craven.
Right.
We'll take it from here. Um,
Yeah, no homage for sure.
absolutely. Then they
So, the other thing that we haven't mentioned, and it's definitely happened a couple times by now. Sam, this whole time, has been having these little twitches and visions of
of Billy
de-aged Skeet Ulrich
Ski
in the rearview
Ulrich.
mirror
Yeah,
in his bloody
bloody
tee.
shirt, his bloody white tee. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, she had them in the waiting room of the hospital before she was attacked by Ghostface for the first time, which is the
yeah,
first inkling you could have to, oh, maybe she's crazy and she's one of the killers.
right.
Which is a fleeting thought because you have to realize that Scream has always been grounded in reality, and
Hmm.
they're not gonna go there. Um,
Like a supernatural type
yeah,
thing where
yeah, a
she's all,
supernatural or a split personality, like that's way too
no,
out there for a Scream movie.
weak
They just
ass.
yeah, they just wouldn't do it exactly. It's weak
Yeah.
sauce. um, but then yeah, you get him in the rearview mirror, and then finally, well, in the scenes ahead, he says, embrace what you are. Kill these
Yeah.
motherfuckers. They just killed all
Yeah.
your friends.
Yeah. It's in you. Yeah.
It's
So,
in
but
you.
yes, yeah, we just didn't mention it yet, and like it's there, like where Sam's not just a neutral character. Like there's something going on. Well, because you find out, yeah, Billy Loomis. She's Sam Loomis.
Right,
Uh, she's again another reference.
right.
Doctor Loomis from
From
Halloween.
right.
Really nice little reference.
So
Um,
we did mention, or we didn't also mention the bad blood between the sisters is from the sister leaving when the younger sister was at such a young age. And we find out why she left. She found this
Mhm.
diary. It revealed that Billy was her father. She confronted her mother
Right.
in front of her father, which she didn't know at the time. And then as
Yeah,
soon as
he
she
didn't.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, the second she turned 18, she left. She left for good.
Right, and it
Um,
ruined the marriage, and it caused a
right.
huge rift. And she didn't want to tell the kid because she didn't want the kid to know that it wasn't her sister and all this other shit.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to hurt her upbringing. She just thought, "I'll leave this because you can be fine on your own." And so, yeah,
And
that comes.
her excuse for leaving was that she didn't want to turn out to be a psychopath like her father and end up hurting her sister
Yeah,
or someone at some point.
sure.
Uh, also,
So, yeah,
also,
what?
since you just made the Loomis Halloween reference, there was another Halloween reference where when Richie says he'd never seen the movies, Sam explains the plot to him, and he goes, "Oh, like in Halloween?" And she goes, "No," and he goes, "Well, it sounds a lot like Halloween."
Yeah, we got a guy wearing a mask going around and killing people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds a lot like Halloween to me.
yeah, sounds like Halloween.
Another good joke, another good
Yeah, and I
reference.
think her new name is Sam Carpenter, a reference to John Carpenter,
Right.
creator of Halloween. Yeah,
Yes. Who,
and that's like there's so many Easter eggs, and this film I think just includes a lot of those little tidbits throughout the whole thing, and it's sprinkled in there. It's fun for the genre geeks that know and love it. There's other ones that come up. I didn't realize it, but some people talked about how to more feed the idea of there being more in this requel franchise that you can see certain characters aren't in it that exist, like we mentioned of Campbell's husband and kids. Could have been other characters. This Kincaid guy, Mark Kincaid, and then the other one was you can see Kirby's name on someone's in the background on the YouTube video, I believe, that she is alive from Scream 4. So that might be something that could come later on.
Sure.
So, all this kind of stuff is there just for fans to kind of enjoy and really get into and eat up. So, anyway, so we're back at the party, right?
Back into the party. Yes. They're
As soon as they arrive, they say, "Shut the party down."
yeah.
Well, before they arrive, though, there's a cool scene where a couple interactions happen, but the
Chad,
one is with yeah, well, yeah, he has an argument with his girlfriend Liv. She wants to go upstairs. She's
and
ready
they
to
haven't
go.
slept together yet.
No,
That was revealed earlier.
it,
No, they're maybe they're both virgins, but they definitely haven't slept with each other
yeah, sort of like Sydney Billy from the very first
from the
one.
original. Yeah.
Uh, and she's like, "It's gonna happen. Let's make this happen." And
And
he's
he's
like,
like,
"Ah,
I there's no way that I know that you're not the killer.
yeah, don't want to ruin this, but
and
I
she,
don't want to die. There's all these people, so let's just stay down here."
yeah,
I
and
really believe you, but I can't for sure.
yeah, that did not go over well,
Right. So
to say
she
the least.
bails. Yeah, and he eventually goes to track her down.
And gets attacked by Ghostface in the front yard.
Right. Yeah,
And
and they use this kind of stuff a bit more with the modern technology. They're like kind of bringing it to the forefront with how these things can be orchestrated nowadays. And so the using Liv's phone, Ghostface texts Chad a link to a Find Me echolocation, a geolocation of where your phone is at, and so he can see where she's at. And he's looking for her, and then gets attacked,
right,
and definitely gets stabbed a ton
a
by the
ton,
end of it.
a ton of
Yeah,
times. Yeah.
way too
Um,
many times to make it through.
to
But
to make it through once again, another Left for Dead character that comes out in the end.
yeah, thumbs up
Um,
in the ambulance. So that
yes,
one happened, and then the other cool interaction before everyone gets to the party is the one with Mindy and Amber in the basement.
yes, right. You think one of
Because
them is definitely gonna die? Ghostface
there's
has to
they're at a
attack.
party and they're at a beer. That's why they go down there. Like, you're not at a beer. There's beer fucking everywhere. They're doing
Everywhere.
shots. Like, I don't believe you're at a beer, but you need to go to the basement to get beer. Okay, whatever.
Sure.
Kind of funny. Uh,
So
and
they
yeah,
do
Amber goes
another
down.
great fake out.
Yeah.
It's another
Hmm.
great fake out. Um, what's hilarious too? Okay, so Sam and Tara are looking for the inhaler with Amber, and Amber shuts the party down. And Richie helps because Richie just wants to get out of Dodge. He's like,
Yeah,
fuck,
he's the older
let's get out of here.
one. He'll be the asshole.
Yeah, he'll be the asshole. And then the first thing he says is, "Where's the beer?" And he goes
Yeah, yeah,
down to the base. He goes down to the basement to get beer. So
right. He
this
has
is
a cool interaction with
with
Mindy
Mindy, where
on the
he's like, "Come
couch.
with me."
Right, yeah. And she's like, you can't go alone, but I'm not coming down with you.
Yeah,
He's like, all right,
I'll
I'll be,
be.
I'll be,
Yeah.
and they're both like,
uh,
yeah, I can't say that.
yeah. And then he leaves, and Mindy just says out loud, "He's gonna die."
Yeah,
Yeah. um, which is great. So then I think she's watching the scene of Stab One, where the actor who
yes,
plays Randy in Stab One is doing the where he can see what's going on outside because of the camera that was left in the news van. He sees it on the TV, and he's like, "Run, run! Look behind you!"
yeah,
And
yeah.
Ghostface is coming up behind him, and Ghostface is coming up behind Mindy.
It's
just,
like the
just
pinnacle of how meta and everything it is, where it's a dream within a dream within a dream
oh,
of images where everyone's and then the viewers in the audience, I imagine if it were a packed theater, everyone is saying, "Look behind
look
you,"
behind.
and so it's like it's so layered and hilarious and
Yeah.
ridiculous.
What's
It's
what's
really funny.
what's great is that she does look behind her at the
Yeah,
last,
she eventually
all
catches up. She
yeah,
realizes it. It takes her a little bit
almost
of time. She's like,
almost too late. Yeah,
yeah.
she look
She looks up.
and gets up, and there's a bit of a chase. She doesn't just get stabbed on the couch.
Yeah,
Um,
and things start to really spin out of control now.
yes, this is
It's going to heighten, but
yeah.
this is the start of the
We're
chaos.
reaching yeah. We're definitely reaching the crescendo here. Oh, important to note, Sydney put a tracker on Sam and Richie's car
Right, because
before they
yeah,
left
they're
from
right,
the hospital.
and they see where they went. Her and Gail look like, oh, look at where they're at. They stopped. They're driving to follow them, and they said, oh, they stopped. Like where they stop, and they look, and they both know instantly. You just see the house
Yeah,
with the long drive where no one else is around. It's Stu's house. They all know.
yeah.
So they're
She
like, this is where it's all going to happen.
she calls Sam, tells Sam, "You're in Stumacher's house. You were lured there by someone. Get get out of there."
Yeah,
And she does say, "How do you know where I am?" But she immediately doesn't care. As soon as they say you're in Stumacher's house, get the fuck out of there.
yeah,
So that I mean that was nice that she like she at least is aware of the danger and the threat and isn't more caught up in like arguing uh you know like in a TV show there would have been like way more dialogue there and like some drama, but no, she just hangs up the phone and goes to find her sister and get out of there. It's at this point where um
well, it's
they
after when Mindy is getting attacked.
right.
Uh, People start to rush to the aid.
Yes.
Ghostface disappears. Someone comes to
Yes.
help, and then
They
then
all
they all start to see each other, and they don't know who's what.
who's what, and they all kind of meet in the living room
Right,
for kind of a showdown where it's you're the killer, you're the killer, you're the killer, and Liv shows up with blood on her hands, and it's from Chad. I found him outside, and they're like, "You're the killer, you're definitely the killer," and Amanda pulls out a gun, shoots Liv right in the forehead, and says, "No, I'm the killer." And it's time for the showdown. It's shot time for the
right.
climax.
Just is that where she says Q Act 3 or begin Act 3?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Um, So here we are. We know who one of the killers is, and we know that Ghostface is running around, and Amanda is in plain clothes with a gun. But we know that there's the second killer is
Amber.
Amber.
Right,
Yeah, I keep saying
Amber.
Amanda. Yeah,
Yeah,
Amber.
yeah.
We know that Ghostface is in costume somewhere.
So okay, so real quick, Amber is one of the killers that we know of. She was like under the radar the whole movie, and maybe that's part of it to like be like it's obviously her because of that. And I can see someone saying that, but it just doesn't make sense because that's sort of like a red herring. They're the least involved in sort of dark and kind of like
Yeah.
questioning things. She's
Yeah.
like close to Tara, but isn't. She's like protective of Tara, and so maybe there's like motive there.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't think
it was
Amanda
like a
was.
redirect. I thought it
Yeah.
made sense.
it was a good redirect. That's what I liked about the Amanda reveal was um, she didn't have any of the qualities of the killers of the past.
Yeah.
Right? She wasn't a fan, or obviously she was, but she wasn't publicly a fan of the
Right.
films, right? She definitely wasn't the know-it-all or the film geek in the crew.
Hmm.
She was super protective of Tara in the first hospital scene, and then you don't see much of her for the rest of the
No,
movie.
she's not in a lot of
Yeah,
it. She's just
so
kind of
you
there in
yeah
the
you just don't
background.
yeah you just don't really think about her. You just know that she's a character, and that she's
Yeah.
kind of like she's got attitude. She's kind of a like a bitch, a bitchy
There's
character,
a
right?
little bit of there's a little bit of a wink and or nod to it whenever she goes into the basement to get the beer and Mindy follows her. Maybe Mindy goes with her, I can't remember. But when she's down there and she opens the door, it's kind of like Rose McGowan in the first one.
Yeah,
But she has on Doc Martens that you often see Ghostface wearing in like bathroom stalls, getting off the seat or onto the seat. Like you could,
right.
if you look at that shot of like just her in front of the fridge, you can see the boots and it looks like it. There's also some like garbage in the corner that looks like it's a big black cloak with a white mask on it, but I think it's
Uh,
just trash. But it's sort of like makes you think of it, and it might be intentional
sure,
framing to clue you in. I thought it was
right.
kind of neat in retrospect, looking at that scene after the reveal. So, like, yeah,
Sure.
I'm on board with the reveal. It makes sense without
Yeah,
hearing any of the other
without the
explanation
exposition.
that they
Yeah,
provide, that
which
they
we
get to.
right we get to it when the second killer is revealed, which happens
Right. Pretty soon,
pretty soon.
Gail and Sid show up.
Right, and they
They
have
get two
guns.
guns out of the trunk.
Yes, they have guns.
They,
Um,
they approach the front door.
Amber comes out screaming, he stabbed me, help!" They look at each
He's
other.
inside.
They they look at each other. Sounds like a trap. Yep. Pull out their guns. Amber goes, "Fuck this!" Pulls out her gun, shoots Gail right in the stomach.
Immediately
Yeah.
in the stomach, and I'm like, got shot. So at that moment, I'm like, just like that, like seriously, you're
Yeah.
gonna, she's done now.
Yeah.
She's just not in it, and she's
She's
gonna die.
right.
That
So,
sucks because she didn't do shit this movie.
well, you gotta love gut shots or gut stabs in horror movies because they'll come. They're coming back. So
Yeah.
I was like, they're not killing Dewey and Gale in the same movie. No fucking way. I
Right.
was like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
So Sydney, Sydney goes in, of course, and this is um, the second killer reveal where
Right. She's
Richie,
just shooting through doors,
yeah,
shooting through
oh
doors, looking for
shooting, yeah,
someone because
shooting
she's on the
doors.
phone.
Yep,
And eventually she gets to the door that Richie's in, and she's
yeah,
like, "What are you doing in here? Why didn't you come out when I said to go out?" He's like, "Cause you got a gun and you're shooting everywhere. I didn't want to get shot."
yeah. And he stands right up and stabs her right in the stomach.
Yeah.
And he gets right in her face, and
Or she goes downstairs. He stays up there. She goes downstairs and gets to a scuffle with Amber, I think, right?
oh, does she?
And something happens because he has to then come down to get the gun to hold it on Amber because Ghostface attacked her. Yeah, and then she fell over the railing,
Over the
right?
room.
And they
Okay.
both fell down onto the floor,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
like they're
yeah.
both waiting to get up. And
Right.
so he comes down to help save her,
The Amber
seemingly.
Ghostface attacks Sydney
Right.
while she's talking to Richie. That's right.
So he has to come to her rescue, and she thinks he's coming to her rescue, and he's not.
He's not.
He's
Yep.
stabbing
Uh,
her in the side.
yep. And that's when the exposition of the why everything's happening is revealed.
Yeah, they start bringing everyone into the kitchen,
Yep. For the
just like the
yeah,
original,
just like there for the
in the
big
same kitchen.
in the same kitchen for the big frame job. He says, "Man, I really, wanted to kill you." And Sam says, "You can't kill the star of your movie." And he's like, "Oh, you're not the star. You're the villain." And
Yep.
he explains the frame job, just like from the original. This you killed this person, they killed that person. Plus, you're crazy, and the daughter of Billy Loomis taking antipsychotics. Um, so he thinks, it's going to wrap up nicely in a little bow. And then we have the return of Gail Weathers, who everybody
Right, because
thought.
okay, so how remind me how did Tara end up getting into the mix? Because
Oh, sure, sure, sure.
Tara is looking around
With the
with
crutches,
Sydney.
with the crutches. So
Because Tara sees, no,
what
Sam sees Tara
Sam
tied
finds
up.
Tara tied up and had a conversation just recently with Richie, where Richie might have alluded to Tara being the villain. And
Right.
and you get a sense of hesitation from Sam, and then there's a cutaway. So you don't know what
Right.
Sam did when she saw Tara taped
Tara
up
tied up.
in
Yeah.
the
She goes to
infect.
take the tape off, but then
Right.
she pauses.
Yeah.
Right. And then you don't see her.
And
So
then
I can't remember, how does Tara get into the group with everyone else in the
so
kitchen?
so in Richie's big monologue
Or Sam, rather.
where he goes, and your sister can't help. She's basically a fucking pincushion right now. As soon as he says that, this crutch comes out of nowhere and starts beating Amber, and just like she just goes to town on Amber with these crutches. And I think that's probably where somebody goes for the gun, and there's a struggle. I can't really remember all the action here, but yes,
Yeah, because it starts to get a little crazy.
this is definitely the turn. Well, the first turn, because the second turn is Gale coming back in. Um, and uh, Sam is about to lose, uh, and that's when she sees Billy for the final time. It's in you. Do it. Do it. Kill these motherfuckers. They killed all your friends. And
Hmm.
she grabs the knife, Ghostface knife, and goes to town on Richie. And I mean, she stabs Richie more times than anyone's been stabbed.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
just gasps with blood. What about my ending? And she goes, "Here's your ending," and slits his throat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was great. I mean, it was just a great movie. Like, you know, I don't want to, I'm not putting it on the level of Halloween 2018. Um, but I'm definitely gonna say that it's better than half of the Scream movies. It's in the top half.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I would be willing to put it in there because when I first saw it, I was like my initial leaving the theater reaction, and we're missing some of the conclusion, but it doesn't matter for a
Right.
second. Like I felt like, yeah, it was fine. But as I'm sitting with it and getting ready to have this conversation with you, and as we're talking about it now, like we're enjoying reliving the movie, I think that they are doing a good job of setting the stage for this franchise to exist now, possibly without all of the legacy characters or less of them, and
Right.
maybe less of them literally and less of them quantity wise,
Right.
uh, like less of them in the film.
Yeah.
I think that they've defined these characters more than any other sequel had done, like 2, 3, or 4. All the other secondary characters were not as memorable or impactful or well cast or well acted as this group of teens were.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
4 was sort of like schlocky with the actors that were the leads. It
Plus
wasn't
you
great.
plus you had the other survivors. Both of the twins survived,
Right.
who are still related. Right. That's
Yep.
Randy's niece and nephew.
They're still
Um,
attached to the original legacy, right?
yep. Sam and Tara both survived. So
Hmm.
you have a lot of survivors from that original friend group, and you killed two legacy characters, right? The
Yeah.
current sheriff, and the old sheriff. Um,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
like
if
I think that it's done a good job of it has now I think enough room to be its own thing. I think
right,
they've
right,
created enough here to start to embark on its own journey.
absolutely, absolutely. If the plan is to make a Scream 2 that is a sequel to this Scream, it doesn't need to have anybody in it. Maybe a phone call to Sydney, or a gal's on TV in the background, but you don't need to see any of the legacy characters. And now, if you're going to follow formula, Sam is the new survivor. She'll be the Sydney of the new trilogy, if that's
Right.
what the plans are.
Yeah.
And she'll always be tied to Billy, in that way as well, which will just keep it going, keep being the reason, for the psycho killer to don the Ghostface mask.
Sure. So I want to wrap up the conclusion of the other Ghostface,
Sure.
Amber, who
Yes.
was played by Mickey Madison. So I can't recall how the turn of events go. It doesn't super matter. There's a lot of action, but uh, both Gale and Sydney are the ones that are gonna dispatch Amber now, and
Right.
they're having a just. Was there a lot of knife action going on? No, there's a fight, and there's alcohol that's thrown on her head. Someone bumps into the stove. The stove's lit,
Oh
and then
yes. Oh, I can't believe I don't
yeah,
remember this. Yeah.
and this is
Oh.
this is such a great reference too that I got because it seemed familiar. I didn't get it until I was like looking into it after it, but it made more sense because like yeah, so that she gets knocked into or stabbed or done something where she gets knocked into the stove and now she's completely engulfed in flames
Yeah.
and goes out. The same way that her character, spoiler alert for a movie here that's coming up, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, her character in that film dies the exact same way. So it's
Oh.
sort of like self-referential of that movie now. It
Right.
is the exact same death where she's burnt up.
Nice. All
And there's a
right.
cool line between Gail and Sydney where they talk about Amber was saying how she's gonna like they're gonna be passing the torch on to her, and they're like, yeah, enjoy that torch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
And so that reminds me of the final conclusion, right? Where so Richie is there, presumably dead. Sydney and Gal are there with Sam, the three, the three female
yeah,
heroines, and Sydney goes, they always come back and shoots Richie in the head, the dead body, shoots him right in the head,
yeah,
and almost immediately after the you see the bullet wound, you hear the scream, and the camera like fast turns, and it's Amber mutilated skin from the burns coming at him with a knife. Um, so that was really nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then it's more or less just a cut to credits. It's the
yeah,
same slow peel away
yeah,
shot, aerial shot of the house with no one around, but the reporter's right there with all the cops in the ambulance, and you see everyone that's yeah, Gail's fine.
yep,
They're she's not even she's not on a stretcher even.
yeah,
Nate, like she's just like there sitting like yeah, this was rough. Like,
yeah,
but we had to do it. I'm like, what the hell? Are you,
yeah,
you should be doubled over in agony. Everyone says gut shot death is like the worst because you're in excruciating pain. It's
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't ever
So
see her get put in an ambulance.
yeah,
The medic just talks to her like, okay, we'll see you.
yeah, Gal gets shot in the stomach. Sydney gets stabbed in the stomach. You've got Mindy and Chad. Mindy was stabbed also in the stomach. Chad was stabbed
Right.
8,000 times, and they're
Yeah.
all on stretchers getting put into
Yeah.
ambulances.
And Tara goes, and this is another Halloween reference for me. She's like, "Could you take me to another hospital? Not that one."
Yeah, yeah. Don't take me back there, please.
Yeah.
All right, so Scream 5, I'm gonna go ahead and just give this a 7 out of 10. A definite will watch again. Um, if I had to order the Scream movies at this moment, I'm gonna go 1, 4, 5, 2, 3. 3 being the worst, although it has one of my favorite scenes in it where Gail is leaving one of the studio lots and she bumps into Jay and Silent Bob, and Jay goes, "Holy shit, Silent Bob, it's Connie Chung!" uh,
He doesn't he say something about Maury or something too? Like, because she's married to Maury Povich. I think he says another one-liner after that.
yeah. Um, so, what did you think, Rod?
My list, I don't know. Uh, I believe my list is 1, 2, 5, 3, 4. But
Put 4
they're so
last.
but they are so close because
Yeah,
I think that it's a couple things. It's like they're doing the same kind of commentary, and I think this new envisioning of the story and what they did with it was more entertaining for all the reasons that we've already talked about tonight,
sure.
more than 3 and 4 were at the time.
Right.
And again, like I said at the beginning of this, I like each of them in different ways from time to time. It's just I don't like them as much as I like this one, and I think one for me is just it's the landmark film,
Sure.
and it is good. But again, I will say, if you go and rewatch it, especially as a first time viewer, like I think you might laugh at it and think it's kind of dumb because now things are just so different nowadays. Like things aren't shot the same way. And one thing I will say that I dislike about all of the well about the newer sequels, this one and maybe four, music was so important to one and two, and I think even three. It was all new '90s pop culture type music,
Right,
a lot of
right.
rock and everything that
Sure.
was like modern at the time, and it was like every scene had
Yeah.
a new rock song that came out that year, and they didn't utilize that as much moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe it would have been maybe they could have done it in 2011, but I don't think they could have done it this year, as in the modern rock of the late 90s doesn't really exist anymore as a
It doesn't
genre.
exist. You can't do it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think it was more like the what music wasn't as important a role, and maybe because culturally it isn't as important for this kind of a genre.
Right.
Then horror was associated with rock and grunge and that whole movement, and
Sure.
now horror isn't associated to any kind of
Oh
music.
yeah.
It's not a part of a culture at all. It's in the weeds. If anything, it's still referencing the old stuff.
Tons of movies like billing their soundtrack in the coming attractions for the movie back then. One
Right.
that sticks out is Fear with the Mark Wahlberg movie. Do you
Okay.
remember that one?
That doesn't. No, I don't
Yeah,
know anything about.
oh, really? Oh, it's
No.
worth it. It's worth it. Great.
Okay.
I think it was Alicia Silverstone, maybe, maybe not,
But
but
music drives the
yeah, yeah.
trailer, or
It's the '90s rock thing, and they definitely really, songs by Bush and stuff like that. No, really, like the ads back then really did push that stuff.
yeah,
And you don't see that anymore in movies. You don't see a new whatever picture coming out, and on the trailer they go with the new single by Taylor Swift. Like
right,
that
yeah.
just doesn't happen.
Well, I suppose unless it's like animated and Lin Manuel Miranda is involved in the project, then he'll get his fucking name listed. You better
Right.
believe that
No,
shit.
that's true. That's very
Did you
true.
see Encanto?
Uh,
Because I did. It was good, but the music is kind of absurd.
Is
It works.
I haven't watched it yet. I really want to though. I'm a big
It's good.
Lin Manuel
They're
fanboy.
always good. I don't think that there's a lot of animated films that get made Disney, Pixar, and otherwise like DreamWorks. I think almost all of them that get made, they're just always good. Like I don't think I've seen a bad one in the last
Yeah,
several years.
they take so long to make and they cost so much money to make. You would probably not want to make a bad one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh, so
so
so yeah, Scream.
Scream. Well, so farewell to Wes Craven before the credits for Wes that was dedicated.
Yeah.
Um, we'll take it from here. The two guys that directed Ready or Not,
Hmm.
a horror comedy starring
Uh,
Samara Weaving.
right.
Uh,
Matt Bettinelli and Tyler Gillett.
right. Which was a good movie, very solid horror comedy. Um, so they did a great job. Good job, guys.
Ready
If
or Not's
you
fun. Yeah. All for this, they paid homage and respect to what Wes Craven had created. I think for this to not be a Wes Craven film, I can see that it's obviously different than the other ones, but they did a pretty damn near perfect job of re-envisioning everything that he would have done in this kind of era. I think, like, I think they did as good a job as anyone could ever have done with
yeah,
trying to fill those shoes.
honestly, I didn't look it up beforehand, and I thought that I couldn't believe Wes Craven hadn't done it the whole
Right.
time I'm watching it. I'm like, did Wes do this? And then the credits roll, and no, he didn't.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with that little factoid. All right, wrapping up Scream. We wanted to talk about what to expect from 2022 in the world of horror. Um, well, in 2022, obviously the first thing was Scream 5. So there it is. Um, up next, which actually is this weekend, it opens a movie called Fresh. I don't really
Mhm.
know anything about it. The horrors of modern dating seen through one young woman's defiant battle to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetites. Listed here
Oh,
as
Sebastian Stan.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sebastian Stan. a cast that I recognize everyone. Andrea Bang from Kim's Convenience. Um, you know,
Yeah.
a lot, some TV actors. You've seen these guys in bit parts here and there.
Huh.
Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier, right? So I don't know pretty much anything about this movie except for that. But it is on the list.
The first thing I think of whenever I read that tagline, trying to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetites. What's that dude that just got in a lot of trouble for an unusual appetite with his girlfriend? Shit. What's
Oh, I
his
don't
name?
know.
Is a well-known actor who was sort of had like a cannibalism kink.
Really?
Yeah. Uh, Maybe not like literally wants to kill and eat people, but the idea of it turned him on. He's a famous dude. People are watching this, they know who it is, and I can't remember his name. It's a unique name. He's not super A-list, but he's a very well-known actor.
Okay.
I'll work on figuring that out. It's a weird reference, but this sounds like it's a movie about him.
All right. Well, fresh, I'll probably, I mean, unless we want to do it on the show, I'll probably wait for that to hit streaming. The next movie I'm going to see in the theaters is Orphan First Kill on January 28th. Um, if you haven't
Army
seen
Hammer. Army Hammer.
Army Hammer,
Yeah, he's in trouble for that.
all right.
Okay, Orphan, The Kill. So I'm gonna have to watch Orphan because I haven't seen
Yes.
Orphan yet.
You have to see
Okay.
Orphan. If you haven't seen Orphan, go see Orphan. There's the character Esther right there on the cover. Um, she is played by Isabel Furman. Here's the cast. Um, it,
So here's the thing. Part of why I never saw it is like the box art, the poster looks dumb to me.
yeah.
Like it looks like a cheap everyday horror movie. And this kind of stops me from seeing a lot of things. Like this, it's a real thing. I'm
So
not saying it's right, but it's the thing.
I get where you're coming from, but Orphan was completely out of left field, and if you know nothing about it, I don't want to even talk about it without you. This movie was so good, you need to watch it unspoiled.
Okay.
So we're done. We're moving on.
Okay. I will see it.
All right, February 18th, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre requel, as is the theme for the evening. Um, what is it? I think it's a direct sequel to the first film, which is the trend at the moment, as we know from Halloween 2018, Candyman, and Scream. Well, not Scream 5, but Scream 5 definitely um, talks about it.
Right.
So yeah, after nearly 50 years of hiding, Leatherface returns to terrorize a group of idealistic young friends who accidentally disrupt his careful, shielded world in a remote Texas town. 50 years of hiding. This is once again a direct sequel to the first movie that deletes the canon of the sequels. He has only attacked once, and now he's attacking again
Mm-hmm.
in this film. Um, so
Uh,
scroll
David
down here.
Garcia there. What has he done?
David Garcia is known for Bloodfest, cinematographer, which
Okay.
and that's it. Tejano, don't know anything about it. Cinematographer as well. So this is his directorial debut.
All right. Cool.
Oh no, looks like he directed and was the cinematographer of Tejano. Um,
Okay.
but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a big franchise. Um, So, who knows? Who was the last one to? Didn't Texas just get redone or like rebooted the way Halloween and Friday did before
Oh,
before
They had Rob Zombie
the
version of
zombie
it.
ones, right? Before the David Gordon Green requel, they got rebooted,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It is kind of ridiculous. I was not a fan of the Rob Zombie reboots.
No, because it was just like it was. It seemed dumb to me. Just do a reshot for shot and like to try to painstakingly make it look the exact same, but with your new Rob Zombie twist and flavor to it all. It was just like, okay, whatever. It was unnecessary, but I'm telling you that like for me, it was unnecessary. There's a ton of people that we know and love. Like I'm sure Pitt loved it.
Yeah, he did. He definitely
There's
did.
people that are super into that, like that want to see the exact same thing, but with this new skin of this new dramatic or gruesome horror guy. The only thing that I did like of Rob Zombie's was the witchy one. I can't remember what it's called. It's the one where there's it's in Salem and it has a girl. She goes to a DJ thing. I can't remember. I'll find it out. Doesn't matter. Let's move
All right.
on.
Moving on. April 1st. Marvel's first take, I guess, in the horror genre. Morbius. Or at least this this list I found online is claiming that Morbius is a anticipated horror film of 2022.
Right.
Um,
Well, but that's them saying it, and most people that are not genre like established genre filmmakers, when they make a horror film, it's very loosely horror. You know what I mean?
right, right. So we have here is it's Morbius is like a vampire. He's like a plasma sucker. Michael
Oh,
Keaton.
he just extracts the plasma from your blood. Is that what he does?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's
Because that sounds stupid.
I,
I
I
don't know the lore, but that
ha
sounds hilarious.
yeah, I haven't looked into Morbius in a really long time. Like since the late 90s was the last time I even thought about him until the movie got announced. Yep, Jared Leto, Michael
Yeah,
Keaton, Jared Harris,
Michael Keaton's in
Matt
it.
Matt Smith. Yeah, and Michael Keaton, I believe, is playing the Vulture because this is
I
the
would
MCU.
imagine, right?
So
And
that
and Morbius is a Spider-Man world character, usually from the comics.
he's
Interacted with
yeah.
Spider-Man more than any other hero, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, for like the popular stuff, definitely. I think he was Midnight Sun or a Night Stalker back in that day, so it was like Ghost Rider, Blade, Punisher, that kind of stuff. Which did
Uh,
include Spider-Man and Daredevil from time to time.
and again, hopefully horror fans are not offended. We do know superhero type shit, and we kind of like it, so it's going to sometimes come up. But again, we're only talking about it because of Morbius being a horror
A
Marvel movie.
horror movie. All right. Up next is
Will it be elevated?
not the next one, but the one after
Probably
it. Well,
not.
maybe both. All right. This is I think my most anticipated for 2022, and that is The Black Phone, starring Ethan Hawke in this super creepy mask. Um, I don't know anything about this movie. I don't like to be spoiled by trailers, so sometimes, like the Scream 5 trailer, I'll gladly watch that because I know what I'm getting into. I don't want,
Sure.
and so I don't want anything from the Black Phone spoiled for me.
I've already
Um,
seen one. It was on the one I think when I saw Antlers, and so I'm trying to just not think about it because if I
right,
try
right.
to think about it, there's a few things I remember and I hate it.
Yeah, so I'm super stoked for this movie. This movie and the next movie that we're gonna show here are probably my two um, choices. Uh, I love also like serious acclaimed actors at any time in their career when they go horror. When Kevin Bacon did it, I think it was Stir of Echoes. I
Hmm.
had very low expectations because it's Kevin Bacon and it's he's like a Hollywood actor. Like, well, how could this horror movie be good? And
Yeah.
Stir of Echoes was excellent. So Ethan Hawke, playing in this film, I think is very exciting.
All right, so what's the next one that you're keyed up
The
for?
next one is July 22nd. Jordan Peele's Nope.
Mm.
And
Right.
all we have on this movie is a screenshot of the poster. um,
Just a floating
just
disc or cloud
yeah, and
in
there's like a it's like
trail of balloons or something, or a
no, it's like
string of lights.
it's a carnival. It's like not a carnival or like a used car lot. Those little triangle
Oh, the little flags, the
flags. Those
tenant
little yeah,
pennants.
yep.
Yeah.
And we have the cast. So Daniel Kaluuya is back from Get Out. Love this guy. We got some Glenn, right? Stephen Wen probably. Um, who was who obviously from The Walking Dead, no stranger to horror, but also did Mayhem, which was a rage
Hmm.
zombie movie. Rage zombies trapped in an office building with Samara Weaving. Another great Samara Weaving movie. Um,
Is that Barbie Ferreira? Is she America Ferrera's sister,
maybe
or is that
that's
different Ferreira?
oh, is an American Model. Uh,
Oh, it's
I think
it
it.
could be completely different
I
spelling. There's an
yep,
I in there that doesn't look familiar.
yep. We don't know.
Okay,
We do not
probably no
know.
relation.
Probably no relation. Anyway, with Jordan Peele attached, I mean, Get Out was fantastic. Us is still on my list. I have the Blu-ray, I just haven't watched it. I really enjoyed Candyman, even though he didn't direct.
Yeah, you
Uh,
screenplayed, right?
yep, yep. Um,
He's got great ideas, and he seems to be very methodical. And to quote Scream Five, like writes enlightened, elevated
elevated
horror. I just
horror.
can't. I can never get the fucking first word. It's like but yeah. So he seems to know what he wants to say and wants to be deliberate with how he says it. And us, I think you'll enjoy it, but I don't think it's as groundbreaking or as good as Get Out. But
Oh, you're talking about us. Us.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah,
the film.
I've heard, and I think that's yeah. I've heard that from more than you, and I that's why it's like constantly on the list, and I still haven't pulled the trigger on it yet.
Well, it's a tough thing because, and that's happens with a lot of the stuff that we end up watching. Whenever you hear a certain thing, it with something that has already been out, a lot of times it can really bog you down from not wanting to see it, or make you excited to eventually see it, but it's not been good enough to make you see it yet for a reason, and so you're still kind of have this hesitation, and it's difficult going into a movie with those feelings because you kind of have already tainted your viewing experience before you watch it. In some ways, uh, it's hard to leave that at the door sometimes for some people.
No, it's very true. And sometimes uh, the hype of a movie being bad has actually helped me to enjoy it because I've gone into it with that zero expectation attitude, and then just being like, why do people think this is bad? This movie's
Yeah,
fantastic, and
right.
so yeah, you can never trust what people think. You got to go with your gut, and as I say that, I remind you to like, comment, and subscribe as we continue to tell you what we think about movies. um, so,
And you know how it's funny to me every time YouTubers and the like mention that they always say it's so little for you to do it, but it means so much for us. I kind of feel like subverting that and being like, you know what, that sounds like that's shit. It's asking a lot from you, and it really I couldn't give a shit for me. Like
right.
it's the Brewster's Millions approach. Like, don't vote for me. And he gets is that
Yeah,
Brewster's Million or is that the other one with Richard Pryor?
I
Where's
don't
the one
think
where he's running for office and he says, "Don't vote for me," and then he wins the election? Is
I
it
don't
Brewster's Million?
I don't think that was Brewster's Millions. I think in Brewster's Millions he had to prove that he could be a businessman or he'd lose his
He's got to
inheritance.
get rid of all the money. Yeah, he has to
Yeah,
spend it
spend
all
it all, yeah, or something
or
like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Not a big
that's my
fan.
take on the like and subscribe.
Yeah, the
It's
the
asking a lot and it means nothing to me.
the Richard Pryor, not Gene
Reverse psychology.
Wilder. The yeah, don't subscribe. Um, the
Fuck that. Fuck that guy.
so yeah,
Bing, bing, bing.
the Richard Pryor movies that didn't have Gene Wilder in them were tough, right? Like they were
Right,
such an amazing comedy duo, but like when either of them strode out on their own, it was except for Young
right,
Frankenstein, but you can't argue with Mel Brooks. Okay,
right. And Willy Wonka, I
a-
guess.
after Nope, um, September
Yeah, let's
9th.
finish up.
Yeah, September 9th. Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot, which is a film, which would be based on the book from Stephen King, which has been adapted into two separate miniseries, one in the 70s, one in the 90s. It's being written and directed by Gary Dauberman, who did It and It Chapter 2, the films, not the made-for-TV version. I mean, I think we can expect this movie to be, at least good. Um,
Mhm.
a writer travels to a town where the people become vampires. It doesn't get more simple than that. Also, if you're a Stephen King fan, gotta love any of his movies where the main character is a writer, because they're
Yeah.
pretty much all home runs.
It seems to be it write what you know.
Yeah, right. Well, and yeah, a lot of his main characters are writers, and it's fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
I think it works so well because people relate to those characters because deep down, like everybody dreams about writing a book one day, or even making a movie one day, and even if and you want to create something, and anyone can kind of get into those
Sure.
shoes, right? They're very
I just watched
relatable main
the
characters.
I just watched the first episode of season 3 for Afterlife, Ricky Gervais. Have you been watching that at all? Following it?
No, no, not at all.
No. So season 3, he's a misanthropic guy whose wife has passed, and he finds it hard to exist in this world. Anyways, but he has to interview people for his local newspaper in his small town in London or England, wherever the hell he is in there. And it's so mind numbing. Anyways, he just interviewed in this new episode on the three first episode. He's interviewing a local woman who's an author, and that's what he's going to write about in the paper. And she just wrote this book, and it's called Open Wide. It's a tale of like this doctor. It's supposed to be like a steamy romance novel based upon this doctor. And it's like he's making fun of it, but she's like, I'm also a spiritual medium. I read tarot, I read palms, I read crystal balls. And it's just like she wrote a book too, and he starts reading stuff from the book to his coworkers, and it sounds just like 50 Shades, more or less,
Oh,
which
sure,
was
sure.
also trash.
Right.
But she just wrote a bunch, and people loved it because it was just popcorn romance fiction,
Yeah.
and it got the right note.
For the most part, if there's a formula and the things are formulas for a reason because they work, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What else do we have after that?
After Salem's Lot, on my birthday, October 14th, Halloween will
Whoa,
end.
that's pretty to throw your birthday and the date out there for everyone to now have plenty of time to get you a fucking birthday gift.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, all I want is to see this movie. I loved 2018. I loved Halloween Kills. Halloween
Yeah, we
Ends.
talked about it
Yeah,
early on into our starting of this podcast.
yeah.
We had a lot of fun. It set up for a really interesting potential to conclude this story of this requel trilogy.
Oh yeah. I'm excited. David Gordon Green, of course, is still at the helm. We've got a little bit of the cast there. Yep.
Someone had said, I remember hearing that there was some new Halloween Ends stuff that came out that people heard about, or some news about it that
Oh
was
yeah.
new. I'm just doing a quick search to see if anything pops up, but
Hmm.
mm, oh, Michael O'Leary reveals that he will be playing a character who is mentioned in Halloween Kills.
Okay. All right. And the final anticipated movie for 2022 is Jeepers Creepers Reborn. There's no date yet on this. Um, Forced to travel with her boyfriend, Lane, she begins to experience premonitions associated with the urban myth of the Creeper. Lane believes that something supernatural has been summoned and that she is at the center of it all. Um, Directed by this name I'm not going to try to pronounce. Um, we got a cast of some no names, maybe some TV actors, a bunch of people I don't recognize. Let's check out this director. All right. Oh, good. The director from the Iron Sky movies. All right. Uh,
That's concerning.
yeah. So who knows?
I mean, Jeepers Creepers is a love the franchise.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, okay. To be fair, I've only seen the first one, and I did love it, and I do still love it. Um, maybe it's because I saw it when I was a teen, and I definitely saw it in the movie theater too. Um,
Yeah,
and
I don't think I did. I think I might have saw it on TV the first time.
yeah,
But one is excellent. One's very, very good.
right. And it wasn't Justin Long in that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
He's the
the
main
mayor.
guy, right? Yeah.
Well, it's
Um,
brother sister, and I can't remember the actress's name.
right.
But yeah, just as long as in it. The second one is good. It does a different take. It's more of a larger ensemble cast of teens that are confronted by this, and I think they bring an order sage type guy that knows the creature. He's
Yeah.
kind of fun. And I think it's just the two, right? They didn't do no, they did do a third one, and
There,
I remember seeing it now, and I think it went straight on Sci-Fi. I don't think it was a release type thing. It was straight to TV or made for TV, and it wasn't that good.
that makes
It
sense.
looked like it looked like a TV movie.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I heard that the third one was definitely bad. I
Yeah,
think that
definitely the worst. But two is not bad. Two is good.
two is
It's
good.
not as good as one.
Right.
It's entertaining
Okay, great.
because they really build more of the monster and you flesh out more. You see more of the monster's past, what makes it the way it is, and different things that it does to do what it does every 8 years or whenever it is. I think it's 8 years that it comes back.
Right, right. Okay.
Cool. Is that the list?
I think that's it.
That's awesome. So we'll probably be talking about each of those when they come up. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Definitely Orphan First Kill. Maybe not Fresh. Uh,
We'll see.
we'll see.
But either way, there's going to be a ton of other things that come out that are more indie budget films that probably will that we don't know about because they just don't have the same kind of notoriety. People aren't talking about them the same kind of way. They probably were in festivals in the past couple months, and
Right.
eventually they'll get a streaming release. Like a lot of the films that we saw in our best of 2021, they kind of come out that way where you don't get to know until it just kind of shows up on your door, and it's a gem. And so I'm hoping that there'll be some of those because there was obviously a ton of them last year.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, the itinerary for next week is Advent Calendar and Death Valley, both
Right.
currently streaming on Shutter. Um,
And so these, I think they're pretty new, right? They came out in December, and
yep,
so
yep.
we haven't seen them yet. I haven't seen it yet. Have you
I
seen
haven't
either
watched
yet?
either yet. I was too busy
All
watching
right, cool.
Scream this week. I watched
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
much Scream. I actually even watched Scream 5 a second time.
You did.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Good for you.
I really wanted to like have it locked in there.
Yeah.
Um,
So that'd be fun.
yep, it'll be fun. They're on Shutter if you want to check them out beforehand.
Yeah, check it out before you hand, and then you get to enjoy this conversation. Join the
Join the
the
chat. Feel free
the
to
chat.
converse with us.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
that'd be fun.
So thanks for checking out this episode 6 of podcast for the recently deceased. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Uh, I'm Nate Roberts,
And I am Roddy Godak.
and we'll see you next week.
Take care.